West of the Rockies, Y2K. How can we prepare?
A few of their machines, radios, throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We're fighting for our lives. Must survive. 5 years. Thousands of air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you live from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, broadcasting via the auditory and visual mediums to my fellow delinquents across the globe. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is November the 29th, 2024, and this is episode 477 of Workshop Radio. How in the world is everyone out there this fine evening? I can almost guarantee that it is colder here than anywhere else that anyone else is watching from, except if Mr. Chris Dixon's on, then we're probably pretty even. But it's good to see you. Good to have you. We took American Thanksgiving off, moved it one night, and here we are on Brown Friday. So yes, I said Brown Friday. So I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you ate all the food you could. I know it's kind of a fake Thanksgiving compared to that real Canadian Thanksgiving that was a month ago. But either way, it is great to be back. So without further ado, the first thing I want to start with is our rule to live by. And I ended up winding up the great big random number generator, and I ended up hitting number 15 this week. And it is rule number 15. The second best time is now. You've probably heard this before, that the second best time to plant a tree is today. You know, the first best time obviously would be 30 years ago. But either way, something that I have came around to in my own understanding is you can't cry over the acorns you didn't plant 20 years ago. You can't cry over the fruit trees that you didn't plant 10 years ago. All you can do is say, well, shit, I guess things went sideways. I didn't do what I should have done, or I could have done something. I coulda, woulda, shoulda. But guess what? Don't let that get in your way of doing something great today. And just because you might not live long enough to see the tree grow does not mean you shouldn't start right now, because you just never know. I see it a lot, folks. You know, people who are elderly in their 60s, 70s, and further on who say, you know, it's just too late for me to start a business. And well, guess what? You're right. You know why you're right? Because you've made up your mind. But the only way to know for sure is to get off your ass and do it, no matter how old, no matter how young. And like I said, it does not matter how long you've been living this life, how many turns around the sun you've made. When it comes down to it, the second best time to do something is now. And truth be told, maybe I should reword that to the best time to do something is now, because second best implies you can do something about what came before, and you can't. Simple as that. All right. So let's see who do we have for fellow delinquents in the group this evening? Hey, Byron Roberts. I just have to shout him out all the time. I am drinking an old fashioned from my Frankfort, Kentucky Bourbon Society glass. This is one of my most treasured possessions. You know, for what it's worth, guys, I occasionally get gifts in the mail from listeners and fellow delinquents, and there's nothing that makes me smile more than that. I just love it. I got this here, and if you can see that civil defense poster over my shoulder right there, that came from Jake at Ravenwood Acres. Thank you for that, brother. And we've got Pippin. He said, yeah, getting close to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, for those of you who don't know, Pippin is a 100% certified Florida man. And that means that it should not get down to 50 degrees Fahrenheit where he lives. So that is rather chilly. And speaking of certified Florida men, Ian, good to see you. Says, I'll have to rewatch later. Took the wife to the Casey Musgrave concert tonight. Oh, I'm actually rather jealous. Now, I'm going to toot my own horn, though. I did happen to book tickets for Becky and I to a Post Malone concert in Vegas in May. Jelly Roll's opening up for him, and that's been on, one of Becky's concert bucket lists for the last couple of years, and especially since Posty put out his country album, I'm rather excited to go and see him live. So that'll be good. AJ Harrison, the bone broth man himself. Good to see you, brother. And Jeff Stark, the real Canadian Thanksgiving. Yes, just like us real Canadian men, right, sir? So anyway, I hope you guys had a good time. The holiday season is now fully upon us, no matter which side of the border, south or north. I I guess, depending on where you're at. South of the border could mean something totally different, couldn't it? Chris Dixon said, country face tattoos, who'd have thunk it? I know I wouldn't have. I'm certainly not going to be one of those. I mean, even Mike Tyson had his face tattoo removed. So that says something. But, you know, when you're as filthy rich as Post Malone, I suppose you can do whatever the hell you want now, can't you? So, all right, where are we going into? Let's move right along. I got quite a bit to cover this evening, and I'm pretty excited, as always, to cover it all for you.
If anyone dies while you are kept in your fallout room, move the body to another house in the house.
The time has come for Stranger Than Fiction.
I've got some good articles tonight, so let's dive in. Anybody who's new here, which I don't see any new faces, so we won't rehash the old, but if you're listening on a replay down the road, this is where we take a look at some of the stranger than fiction. Yeah, these are fact stories that absolutely are true. And beyond that, I should mention this evening that I've started streaming back over to Rumble again. I don't know what happened, but YouTube has stopped the automatic uploading over to Rumble. And there's enough traction on Rumble that the channel will be streaming over there for the next little while. And it appears that the broken tool that was Facebook streaming is no longer broken. So we are back over there for the moment. But either way, you guys will know. And of course, if you haven't followed the new Workshop Radio YouTube channel, do that too, because once we hit episode 500, we are going to be streaming there 100%. So Jeff Stark says, curious, I'm watching in TV on the Toolman channel and typing on my phone at Workshop Radio. Do you see both? I see that one, and I saw the real, let's see. They both show up as the same username and the same blue moose. I like that. All right, so here we are. First story, World War III alert. No, not really, but here we are. It comes from WCBM, as in Mike.com. World War III watch. Yeah, if that's not a clickbaity headline, I haven't seen one. That sounds like the starting title of just about every Canadian prepper video out there. However, Sweden goes full prepper. Don't ever go full prepper because you know what happens. As 5 million residents get pamphlets on how to stock food and prepare for nuclear war. Yep, maybe I should have started with something a little lighter, but this just happened to be the first story in the order that I saved them on my phone. So, not since the darkest days of the Cold War have we been so close to a nuclear conflagration as now. You know, I want to back that off. They love to, throw out crazy ideas and concepts that we're in a bad situation or whatever. But truth be told, we're always just as close to a nuclear war as any other time. All it takes is one crazy person to hit a button and you're all set. So we just live with it. And yeah, in the words of C.S. Lewis way back when he was asked, how can you do anything during this crazy nuclear age? And he said, humanity has always been, the individual or the community has always been at death's door. The middle-aged communities, the villages, were completely at the mercy of, say, Vikings showing up tomorrow and decimating them. You don't know what's coming around the corner, so don't live your life in fear. However, this is an interesting story, so let's dive in. In Europe, the sense of impending doom is not recent, but it's a little more acute. The formerly neutral and Pacific, I don't think that's, pacific. Oh my goodness, guys, this will be a great word. I think that's supposed to be pacifist, Sweden, but they have Pacific instead. I think it's supposed to be Pacific, but we're just going to leave that alone. They've put the preparedness into overdrive as they anticipate the arrival of crisis and war. Daily Mail reported Sweden is sending out 5 million pamphlets to residents, urging them to prepare for the possibility of war. Since the start of the war in Ukraine, Stockholm has repeatedly urged Swedes to prepare both mentally and logistically for possible conflict, citing the worsening situation in its vicinity. Yeah, no shit, right? So the booklet, which is in Swedish, of course, which will make it hard for us to read, If Crisis or War Comes, has been sent out by the Swedish Civil Contingencies Agency. And on it goes, but it said in the defiant bit, it can be read, if Sweden is attacked by another country, we will never give up. All information to the effect that resistance is to cease is false. Citizens must locate the nearest shelter to their work, school, or home. If that's not some civil defense era crazy shit right there, guys, I don't know what is. But either way, Sweden is prepared for it. And I would say, or I'd venture to say, that this sort of thing should not instill fear. It should truly, I guess, inspire us or hopefully make us feel a little bit better that some countries are willing to be prepared. I love the fact. I mean, you wouldn't say to somebody, hey, it looks like it's going to rain, or, hey, there's a really good chance that there's a hurricane coming up. Maybe you should evacuate. You wouldn't call somebody fear-mongering who does that. So I would say dealing with things as opposed to burying our head in the metaphorical sand is a much better idea. All right, here's the next one. This one is truly strange. And I don't know if you've seen this or not, but this comes from Zero Hedge, actually one of my more favorite news sources as of late, written by Tyler Durden. And if you don't get the Fight Club reference, I'm sorry about that. But to just jump back over here real quick, Byron Roberts says, sounds like it's out of a 1950s home magazine. Yes, it does. Here we go. So, anybody ever heard of TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome? Now, again, I gave up voting a few years ago. However, when it comes down to it, it is certainly entertaining to watch. And I won't begrudge anyone who decides they want to vote. No problem whatsoever. But here it is. Florida-based cruise line has unveiled a new 4-year cruise package called Skip Forward. Yep, seriously, cannot handle the reality of it. Skip Forward is offered to anyone suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. True story. The Skip Forward package is part of the Tour La Vie program starting at $40,000 a year and is a continuous global adventure for up to, count them, 4 years, which just happens to be 4 years long. Could it happen to be Trump's presidency? I think it might be. Yeah, I know. Pippin says skip forward. Could you imagine being so distraught over how one person or another vote that you're basically willing to throw away 4 years of your life to go live on a boat? Now, I'm not saying, no, if that's what you want to do and that makes you happy, great. So skip forward. In an interview, CEO told the AP News the cruise liner is offering voters who were not pleased with the election results not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 exclusive deals. This one's good. 1 year, escape from reality. 2-year, midterm selection. 3-year, everywhere but home. And 4-year, skip forward. Yep. Peterson said the excursion to 425 ports across 140 countries allows voters to escape chaotic American politics and show up just in time to have their heart broken 4 years later. Pippin says, just surprised it's out of Florida, but we like money. That is very true. I've never been to Miami, but I've heard about it. And Byron Roberts says, I know a couple of people I donate funds for their trip. Yeah, I have no doubt. I don't know if anybody saw that Ellen and her wife moved to Britain. Yeah, I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with the PR nightmare that has been her life the last 3 years, and it's completely to do with Donald Trump. But she decided to exercise herself from the United States and live a very lowly, I say lowly, a very pampered existence in one of the most posh neighborhoods in London, I do believe. And Pippin says, well, bye, Ellen. Yes, I agree. All right, let's go back to the cruise ship here for a moment. I don't know if anybody, oh man, I don't know if I could, I'm not sure if I can play this video or not here. Where is it? No, it's not going to play sound anyway, but this one lady is, screaming her head off, and somebody remixed it to a very famous 90s rap beat. So yeah, it's not going to play, but anyway. So if anybody is, deciding they want to move out for 4 years, simply because somebody got elected, you can live the dream for $40,000 a year on a cruise ship. And to be honest, I'm going to say, I thought 40,000 sounds rather cheap to be able to live on a cruise ship for 40 years. For a year over 4 years. Pippin says, I doubt she gave up her passport. I'm sure she didn't, because she'll want to come back and work. All right, let's move on to the next story. This is a good one. Man, I've got these are some fun ones this week. All right, this comes from NewYorkPost.com. And good old Scramblin would appreciate this story quite a bit, I do believe. This one comes out of Seattle, our West Coast neighbors. Seattle finally starts throwing shoplifters and other petty criminals in jail for the first time in 4 years. I just assumed that most places threw criminals in jail, but apparently they don't, or they didn't. This is Seattle, of course. Here it is. Seattle has finally started tossing folks in jail for low-level crimes again after 4 years of letting shoplifters, vandals, and other petty criminals walk free. I love when they throw that word in, petty. You're still a criminal, just saying. The change, which went into effect earlier this month, reverses pandemic-era restrictions. So who wants to guess how long some of these draconian pandemic-era restrictions will stick around? I mean, when Trump came into office last time around, he did away with some of the Y2K status reports that were continued for 15 plus years post Y2K. So there is that. The government, once a law is enacted, it's really hard to get rid of now, isn't it? Here it is. The change, which went into effect earlier this month, reverses pandemic-era restrictions that kept Seattle police from booking all but the most serious misdemeanors in the slammer. Officials in the Emerald City argued the policy hamstrung prosecutors and cops. No shit, Sherlock. So you said you could not put criminals in jail, and you are saying that it hamstrung prosecutors and cops. Cool. All right. I guess that's enough. That's all we needed to hear there. I mean, I probably could have told you that before we started, that if you decided to not put criminals in jail, that it would make it more difficult for both prosecutors and police to do their job. But either way, I haven't been to Seattle before, so I don't want to judge, but there you go. Yeah, so they have decided to start putting criminals in jail again. It's almost like a lot of these policies just haven't worked out the way they thought they would. Anyway, now the title of this week's episode, if you happen to see it, and this was a crazy story that I had no idea, and this should, this is why, just for the record, this is why I'm drinking 2 old fashions this evening, so I can get my vitamin C, because I put an orange peel in each one, which definitely gives me all the vitamin C that I need. This one comes from globalnews.ca. It's a Canadian story, and it says L'Orange, Saskatchewan doctors diagnosed 27 cases of scurvy. The last time I heard about scurvy was in elementary school, and not because it existed then. I mean, it always exists, but because it was something we learned about in social studies. It was the type of thing that you heard about the early Canadian explorers in the 16 and 1700s would get when they lived off crackers and whiskey. They got it simply by not eating things like vitamin C rich foods. And unfortunately, it's making a comeback. Scurvy of all things. Guys, this is right up there with leprosy. I mean, maybe not, I don't know. I think it's just as deadly, but doctors in Saskatchewan have treated 27 cases of scurvy within the last 6 months, bringing to light the severe impact of food insecurity in the province's north. So this is something that is unfortunate. It's in the it's in the native reservations up north. That tends to be a higher population up there, and they tend to be in a more impoverished people group. So all of this is against them to begin with, but holy shit, scurvy, right? And I laughed out loud while I was saying that, because I read Chris Dixon's comment that says, what's wrong with crackers and whiskey? Nothing, really. I'll eat crackers and whiskey all day. Just leave the crackers out of it and finish it off with whiskey. I'm good with that. All right. Irvin confirmed to Global News that 50 vitamin C blood tests were taken and 27 were confirmed to be deficient. All patients were over 20 years old and 79% were Indigenous. Scurvy symptoms vary from fatigue, joint pain to hair changes, wounds not healing, and loss of teeth. I've known lots of people out east who maybe have scurvy, if their hair's falling out and they're losing their teeth. When hearing about this uptick in cases, the Saskatoon Food Bank says it's unfortunate we're still talking about scurvy in 2024. We're always trying to provide the most nutritious food possible, of course, but I think we have a much bigger issue in our province. Yeah, you do. Oh, Jeff. Oh, yes, I forgot about that. Jeff Stark said, Saskatchewan, boil your spruce needles. Yes, you can actually get vitamin C out of your spruce needles. Make a spruce nettle tea, as the old timers called it. And yeah, there you go. Byron Roberts says he likes his whiskey with a side of whiskey. Yeah, there is a country song right now called Whiskey, Whiskey. I figured one whiskey wasn't enough, so they had to double it to make it a real country song. So yes, if you're ever lacking vitamin C, boil your spruce needles and make yourself a wonderful tea. But beyond that, what more are you going to do?
Stay safe, and sanitize.
Let's go back in time with the Prepper Files.
Here we go, folks. This is a deep dive into the Prepper Files. This is a brand new segment. Well, semi-new, but the transition clip is new. I hope you guys enjoy that one. We'll get it spruced up. Pardon the dad joke there for a minute before too long, but it's coming. So this happened actually yesterday. I prepared my notes for a November 28th episode. So this was back in 1942. The Coconut Grove Fire was a nightclub fire that took place in Boston, Massachusetts on November 28th, 42. Resulted in the deaths of 492 people. If you want to research more about this, you can. It's on Wikipedia. But it said during the first Thanksgiving weekend since the U.S. had entered World War II, the Grove was filled to more than twice its legal capacity. The fire was initiated by an electrical short and fueled by methyl chloride in the air conditioning unit. Sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Flames and smoke spread rapidly through all areas of the club, and people were unable to escape efficiently because of the locked exit doors. Blame was directed at Wolanski, I guess that's the owner, for violation of standards. He served nearly 4 years in jail before being released just weeks before his death. And I guess the reason I picked this story was that's a really bad thing to happen, on Thanksgiving Day, number one. Not that matters when it happened, but it just really sucks. But it made me think of the Rhode Island nightclub fire, and I ended up doing a fairly deep dive, reading some articles on that I hadn't learned about before. And I guess this story, more than a lot of what I've read recently, I get reiterated the idea to me that a person should always know where your emergency exits are. And I guess more than that, what are you going to do if one of them's locked? But it made me think recently, a couple of the hockey games I went to last year in the playoffs, and how very quickly the escalators to get out of the upper bowl get gridlocked. You're to the point where you just cannot get out. And I got thinking, I need to find some alternative routes to get out of there, just in case something like that, hopefully something like that never ever happens. But I realized going to a lot of these hockey games this year that I haven't paid as much attention to the emergency exits there. I go into a restaurant, I look around, I find the exits. I go into a hotel, I look at the little map on the wall next to the elevator, and I know where they are. I quite often will even look for the fire extinguisher, but never thought to look at the Rogers Center. So that's one of those things that kind of reminded me of that. But if you ever have read up on the Rhode Island nightclub, it was a horrible disaster as well that implemented some pretty interesting changes coming out of that. But one of the biggest code changes, and again, love it or hate it, sometimes building code, they're a pain in the ass, but one of the things that came out of it was the fact that any event with 200 people or more had to have basically a crowd control manager on staff at the event, one per every 200 people. And I thought, isn't that cool? So it's basically an emergency management officer on staff that has been trained in how to get crowds out of a place very quickly. And they said at that Rhode Island nightclub, for instance, one little 3-foot wall probably caused the deaths of half or more of the people. They said that the one extra wall making it more difficult to egress through the main exit was enough to bottleneck all of the people trying to get out. And that's sad, man. That shouldn't happen to anybody. Not a bit. So anyway, Coconut Grove Fire, if you've never heard about it, look it up. It was the largest largest nightclub disaster in U.S. history. Heartbreaking, and unfortunately, most rules and codes end up happening because of a massive loss of life.
He's dead. They're all dead. Everyone. You and I are in it. Everyone. You and I are in it. And I'm glad it's dead. And I'm glad it's dead. Honky tonk of a world. Honky tonk of a world.
Coming up next is Workshop Wasteland.
Well, this is normally the segment where I take a minute and I look at the post-apocalyptic news this week, dealing with books and movies and all of that stuff. And guess what? It was a really slow news week for movies and TV shows and that sort of thing. So I ended up coming across this article from Yahoo Entertainment. Yeah, I know. I was more surprised, more shocked to know that Yahoo was still in business. But this article here, we'll just go over it quick and see if we can find a couple of recommendations on it. But the 12 best post-apocalyptic movies we've ever seen. And it wasn't post-apocalyptic, but the wife and I watched Terrifier 3 last night. You can groan or think of it as you will. I'm quite the proponent of practical effects in movies, and they did a wonderful job. Let's just say in that. So before we go any further, Chris Dixon says humans love their squares and walls. Yes, we do. It's somewhat unnatural in nature, I do believe, at least squares for the most part, but we do them anyway. So let's take a look at this. Movie Maker from Yahoo Entertainment. But first, what makes a post-apocalyptic movie? A post-apocalyptic movie is a movie that takes place after the fall. I thought they were going to say after the apocalypse, but they basically do. After the fall of civilization due to nuclear war, another event that wipes out humanity, anything like that. So here's some movies. Anybody thumbs up or thumbs down out there if you like them, but this is one of my all-time favorites. The Matrix 99, great film. I guess it is totally post-apocalyptic. It exists it's almost like the inverse of the Terminator films. The world itself is very similar to the Terminator future, but at least everybody lives in harmony, or at least oblivion. They don't know what's going on, right? How about 12 Monkeys? I got to say, guys, I don't believe I've watched this movie at least in 20 years, and it may be going on almost 30 now. I don't know if I've actually watched it since it originally came out. I remember sitting on my good friend's couch watching it on the floor model color television, the 27-inch floor model color TV they had. We used to get down and rent VHSs, watching 12 Monkeys and thinking, that's a pretty good movie, even though I probably didn't understand any of it. So it might be worth going back and watching again. How about A Quiet Place, 2018? Yep, that was good. Loved it. Saw it in theaters. Loved it so much. They made 3 movies of it, and more coming. Children of Men, one of my all-time favorites. Absolutely cannot disagree with this. This was one of those films that bombed at the box office for the most part, but got a really big boost on physical media after the fact. And if you've never seen this, so far out of all the films on this list, give Children of Men a watch. It's hard to believe that that's almost 20 years ago. How about Night of the Comet? This is one on this list that I have not seen. And I brag about my twins all the time, but we've turned them into some movie lovers. And so what we do now is we get them to make their own list of movies and come at us with it. And so each night, one of us gets to pick a movie when we're sitting down. So, Charlotte once, Alice once, Becky once, me once. And Alice actually put this movie on her list. Never saw it before. Still haven't seen it, but I was on one of my favorite Blu-ray sites the other day. They had a really good deal, and I took a chance, and I bought this one sight unseen. So we're going to watch it. We'll have it on physical media to watch. So sitting in our bunkers, underground, post-apocalyptic, we can watch a post-apocalyptic movie. Pippin says, wasn't Night of the Comet a pre-Dawn of the Dead? Maybe it was. Let's see. We figured a cult classic should be in the mix, and Night of the Comet is our choice. It's the kind of movie that has Mary Winona Roth in a supporting role, if that sentence means anything to you. You've probably already seen Night of the Comet, or at the very least are running out to watch it. It's kind of a comedic in the way it winks at a sci-fi disaster. All right, well, I'll watch it at some point. Here's another one, actually, I have not seen, Wall-E. Anybody seen that out there? I know it looks good, and it's, one of the big animated films, but yeah, haven't seen it. The Omega Man, this is the original version of Will Smith's movie. If you haven't seen, one of my greatest films of all time, I Am Legend, give it a chance. But go back and watch this. Richard Matheson's novel, I Am Legend, has been turned into a movie 3 times and even parodied in a Simpsons episode. But this was one of the originals. Terminator 2. Yeah, I remember Terminator 2, watching it at my buddy Jason's house in 91, 92 on VHS. That movie changed my life just a little bit. Incredible. Beyond that, let's go down. AI, Artificial Intelligence, 2001. That was Stanley Kubrick's last movie. He actually passed away before it was finished, and I believe Spielberg came in and finished it. I don't know if it says this here. Yeah, anyway, not a bad movie. Okay. Night of the Living Dead. Oh, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Do yourself a favor. That is the original zombie movie. It's just so good. Mad Max Fury Road. It is a fever dream from start to finish. It's a movie that hits the gas running and never stops. Planet of the Apes, 1968. I remember watching that in college, late at night in the college. What did we call it? Basically the TV room. The lounge is where we could hang out on Friday nights as late as we wanted. And I remember falling asleep watching that movie. It was okay. And yeah, so that's the list. If there's anything that, well, you've seen me do lists before like this, but I always like finding other folks' lists and see what they list on it. But yeah, so that is as far as this week for post-apocalyptic news and that sort of thing. That's the one. All right, so we don't have a segment transition for this next one, but we are graced with Thecia, Grandma's Homestead. She came back to us this week with another cookbook of the collapse. She has a recipe tonight called Texas Trash Pie. And if you're not following Thecia, she's doing really well. She's up to 600 subscribers and she has a heart of gold. So give her a subscribe. Her link is in the description. So let's give it a listen and see what she has to say.
Hi, I'm Thecia Ellis, and welcome to Grandma's Homestead. In this video, we're going to do another in the series of cooking from the pantry. And you know, especially if you have kids, you know they're getting tired of beans and rice and beans. And I have come across a recipe that is almost completely from the pantry. And honestly, if you think about it, the butter could be pantry safe. I know I keep it on my counter quite a bit, just like that. And I don't have any trouble with it, even, well, if I have the air conditioner running in the summertime. This is a recipe that your kids will love. It's called, I don't know what, I think I heard of a different name for it too, but when I came across it, was called Texas Trash Pie, and it tastes a lot better than it sounds. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. When I make a pie, I go and I get one of those Pillsbury pie crusts from the refrigerator section of the store, but I promised you cooking from the pantry. So we're going to make our own crust today with flour and salt and lard and a little bit of water, and we'll make our pie crust from scratch. You do what you do, but I promised that I'd do my very best to make everything from the pantry. So let's make some pie crust first. For the crust, we're going to start with 1 1/4 cups of flour, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and this is just for one crust. This is not a double crust. And this is 1/3 cup of lard. I love this thing. All right, I do not have a pastry cutter, so we're just going to do it with our fingers. After, I got to get my water out first. It says to use cold water, and so I put some in the refrigerator. I'm just working it lightly between my fingers. We don't want to work it too hard. We're working it lightly. We're going to make it where it's not big pieces like that, but more like coarse cornmeal, so that the lard is worked all the way through the flour and salt mixture. I had an Aunt Diane that, no joke, she made the best pie crust. Like when we were at family reunions, her pie crusts were so beautiful and tasted so good. You can tell by looking that those were hers. Right now, we're going to get our water, and it says 5 to 7 tablespoons at a time. So we're going to take it and sprinkle a little bit. And it says to mix it a little bit. And as it's mixed, and you just kind of push it off to the side and work to the next part of it. All right, that's looking pretty good. It's coming together well. I am no expert at pie crust, but we're going to try this anyway. See if we can get this to roll out. Probably should have balled it up a little bit more. It's not too bad, though. I think it'll work. Okay. See how well it holds together. I've got my oven set at 350, preheating. Oh yeah, that's not bad at all, is it? So then we get it in here, pinch it off. Well, let's fold it over and then pinch it off. It may not be pretty, but we're not here for looks. We're not going to the state fair. We're going straight to our kids' tummies. And then what we do is we do some poking with it so it doesn't bubble up. All right, our pie crust is done. Let's get started on the pie itself. In a larger bowl, let's take 1 cup of chocolate chips. We've got 1 cup of pretzels. We're going to crunch them up. And the best way I know to do that is just get my rolling pin and start working on them. So it's not way too crunched up, but it's pretty good. Same thing with graham crackers. It says 1 cup of graham crackers. This is 4 full graham crackers broken down. It should be close enough. Let's break this. Let's crunch these up now. We'll add this to the mixture. Now we're doing 1 cup of shredded coconut. A cup of pecans. I scored some English walnuts. These are not black walnuts. Black walnuts are a darker, stronger flavored nut. We're doing English walnuts. These are cracked caramel bits. And yes, 1 cup. Uh-oh. Looks like somebody's been snacking on my caramel bits. Let's mix that together. Let's stir this all together. This is all just the dry ingredients. This is a coconut, graham crackers, chocolate chips, caramel bits, nuts. Definitely all shelf-stable stuff. We melted our butter, so we're going to drizzle that on it. Mix that in. Well, let's do this first. And this is a can of sweetened condensed milk. We want to get all of that out and mix this all together. Make sure everything is coated with both the butter and the sweetened condensed milk. There we go. Texas trash pie. We're going to dump this in our pie crust, making sure I haven't forgotten anything. Nope, haven't forgotten anything. So we're going to dump this all into our pie crust. Smooth it all out. Looks like a mess, doesn't it? And we're going to stick it in the oven at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes. All right, this cooked for about 40 minutes. It's the instructions said 40 to 45 minutes. And then it tells you to let it sit for 15. And so that's what I've done. And you can see the chocolate chips. You can see the caramels in here, the nuts and everything. Guys, my mouth is starting to water because this really is wonderful pie. So let's cut into it. And look how gooey that is. Oh my goodness, guys. Oh, I gotta get the rest of the crust too. That is so good. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this screams fresh whipped cream or ice cream, but I'm not gonna have any of that. I don't have any of that. But isn't that beautiful? Definitely good. Your kids are gonna love this.
Well, what'd you think, guys? That, oh my goodness. You know what that reminded me of? It reminded me, my mother-in-law makes dessert bars, I guess you'd call it. She basically takes, I don't know if you guys do the same thing we do, but if you eat dry cereal, which I'm guessing a lot of you out there don't, but if you do, you end up just kind of throwing your boxes on top of the fridge. And then eventually, invariably, you end up getting 3 or 4 boxes of like this much left. You know how the kids, they love something and then they hate it. So you get a whole bunch of boxes of like little bits of cereal left. And she basically mixes them with butter and peanut butter and makes squares out of them. This is kind of like the Texas version of that, except it's more of a dessert pie. And I am sure the possibilities would be infinite with what you could absolutely turn that into. That was cool. That was really neat. And I loved how it's all shelf stable and it's practical real world stuff that you are legitimately going to have sitting on a shelf somewhere. So thank you, Thecia. If you guys haven't followed her yet, please do me a favor and follow her because she is, that is what she does. I mean, this is her channel. She's been doing it for years. I remember first watching her when she started tearing apart the inherited mobile home that she's in, and she just continues to do it, guys. So give her some love. Let's get her up to 1,000 eventually. But I appreciate it, Thecia. Just if you're listening, also for the content that you send our way, I love it. So thank you very, very much. So beyond that, let's go into.
Now you stay in the back. You stay in the back, and you keep your gun handy. Our country is still full of thieving, murdering.
Get ready. I read it on the internet.
All right, so this is again our look at the front page of the internet. This is where we got our preppers and take a look at the most liked story of the week. This was a good one. It was a no-brainer because it's right up my alley. So let's share it here for you. This is from our preppers, and it's from I'm Probably Drunk. That's the username. I love it. It says, don't sleep on ethnic grocery stores. Don't sleep in front of them either, because you might get stepped on when they open up in the morning. I know when trying to stock up, the price can add up quickly, especially when buying from mainstream stores. I had to go to a Chinese grocery store today for the first time for a specialty ingredient. I was blown away. 8 pounds of rice, $10. 3-pound cans of beans, $8. I just spent under $100 Canadian and ended up with 95,000 calories. So if you're looking to stock up, head to your local Chinese, Indian, small independent grocery store. Agree. My daughter Alice loves Oriental food, and we go to the TNT market in Edmonton all the time. It's like a super grocery store for Asian food. And you've seen some of the videos we've done in the past. We have a hell of a time with it, but there's a ton of good prepping supplies you could pick up there, and some really cool shelf-stable proteins, because protein seems to be, as you know, the hardest thing to find to store long-term, but there's a ton of those at those Oriental grocery stores. I've been meaning to take her up and check out some of the Indian stores every so often, some of the Filipino stores, but yeah, the big Asian grocery stores are chock full of prepping supplies. A couple of comments to follow up from Shadow Knows. Not a prepping thing, but the Asian grocery stores in particular have much better vegetable variety. It's embarrassing how bad classic American grocery is with respect to quality and variety of vegetables. I agree. They do have a ton of really cool veggies there, for sure. See if we got anything else. This is obviously not intended as provocative, so take it merely for what it's worth. This is from On the Edge of Freedom. I went shopping with a Taiwanese family in an Asian market in Boston. It was eye-opening. They examined every label and refused to buy anything from mainland China. It wasn't political. They had genuine concerns about food safety. The prices are definitely right, but look up brands and distributors. Sure. And then some person here said, to reinforce this point and to highlight something I've encountered personally, you can do a simple test. Buy 4 bags of rice, 2 from your regular grocery store and 2 from whatever ethnic market is nearest. Put 2 bags, 1 of each, on the shelf and set aside. Do the long-term thing and seal the other 2, each in their own Mylar with O2 absorbers. When you check on them, the shelf bag from the ethnic store will have weevils in 1 month. Your regular one may take up to a year. The Mylar sealed bags, the ethnic one, will still develop some weevils because the O2 absorbers don't fully deploy. I mean, anyway, so this is one of those things. It's based on personal experience. Could it be true? It absolutely could be true. I'm not going to say it isn't. Maybe put it in the freezer for a while. I don't know. But either way, I have had really good luck at the ethnic grocery stores stocking up on things. And also, we have a hell of a time picking out food there, trying new things. Alice and I love going to the hot food ready kind of market end of the supermarket there. We've got some pretty cool things, some things maybe. I think we tried squid one night that I hadn't tried before. And, so give it a shot if you want to, because to me, it's totally worth it. And you might just open your eyes to some other, and we found some, I guess you would almost call them MREs. They were hot pot meals with their own little chemical heater in them, which was really cool. I still have some sitting upstairs that I plan on doing a video on at some point in the future.
Nothing like eating under an open sky, even if it is radioactive.
Dropping the dime precious metals.
Got a new one for you this week. And actually, just before I went live, I was reading a couple of news stories, and China claims to have found the world's largest vein of gold just this week. So I don't know what that's going to do to the gold market. It still has to be pulled out of the ground and that sort of thing. But I did quite a long dive into the history of gold production and how it's tied in with the GDP. Basically, they said that gold production and the GDP had grown on average by 3% for the last multiple centuries. I thought that was rather interesting. And I couldn't tell if they correlated. I couldn't tell how strong the correlation was, if it was why that was. And I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into it, but I really enjoyed that. So anyway, but I did have this one. This came this week from JM Bullion. And if you guys ever heard me talk about those Zombucks, the 1 ounce silver coins that are basically famous silver ounces that have been turned into zombie currency, well, they decided to come out with yet another zombie end of the world currency. These are really cool. Don't buy them for an investment. These are a novelty, but I wanted to show you guys because I'll probably pick one of each up eventually. This is the Zombox World Kill-Around Silver Note, based on the South African Cougaran, but this is the dead version of that. But this is like a gold back, but it is made out of silver instead. Now, this is 1/10,000th of an ounce of silver, and this bill is $8.99. So you're not buying it for its silver content. You're totally buying it for its novelty. But I did not know that they had released Zombucks, legitimate Zombucks, not the coins, but the bills in a silverback this time around. So kind of interesting. If you're looking at them, the link's in the description. No affiliate or anything like that, but it's from jmbullion.com. All right, what do we got now?
Money selling the end of the world.
I'm sure there's a lot of money and selling a political ideology that ends in bread.
Let's reach into the Faraday cage.
All right, here we are. And the first article was there just a moment ago. And, oh, I see what just happened. We just froze. What is going on? Can you guys hear me out there? We're going to close this. Oh, boy. Hang in there. If you guys can hear me, let me know. All of a sudden, we just lost. Oh, there we are. Are we coming back yet? I see it. Well, I'm going to keep talking in case it records. So if you guys are out there, yep, somebody's telling me right now that I just froze because somebody upstairs probably just unplugged the internet or something. And I don't know what happened. Here we are. Everybody's telling me now. I apologize. Bear with me for a second, folks. We just lost our internet here. And I don't know why that happened. I'll go on here and I can at least tell you what happened on my end. I can see the comments coming up, but oh my goodness, my browser just froze. There we go. There we are. Oh, audio is fine. Okay, good. Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry for the rambling for a moment, but oh, there we go. All right, we're back. Something just froze completely on my end. Can you see? We're good. All right. So anybody listening in the audio afterwards, it was the Gremlins. I think some alphabet agency decided that they didn't like what I was about to talk about. And the story that just crashed on me, I'll give you the gist of it, was all about Starlink this week. And this one is the Faraday Cage. I love the name. It was sent to us from a fellow delinquent. And this is where we take a look at some of the tech stories of the last week. And this one, the first story I have, I'm not going to try to reload it because it froze on me. And it was all about Starlink finally having enough satellites in space to be able to do space to ground cell service. So that is going to be a game changer. I don't know how far they're willing to push big tech in going after the telecom companies to say, hey, we're going to do this. So far, they swear all they want to do is supplement in areas where it's not available. But I mean, iPhone is doing that right now with the satellite messaging. I started tinkering with that the other day just a little bit. But beyond that, I'm pretty excited. You know, Elon Musk, take him or leave him. I think he's a pretty interesting dude. But I'm rather excited for Starlink getting enough satellites up there that they're going to be able to offer some form of cell service for us all. So beyond that, this story right here. And if you didn't catch it, John Willis and I did a live this week on Monday. And this is one of the stories I shared with him. And I haven't done a deep enough dive. I really should pick Sean Mills' brain about this because it's kind of interesting. But if you haven't heard about it, it is a Sol Arc and Die or Die-E inverter dispute. And instead of reading the whole thing to you, because it gets kind of technical, I'm going to fill you in on the gist of this story. But I will read a little bit here. It says a significant dispute has arisen between Sol Arc and Die, two companies involved in the solar energy industry. November 15th, 2024, Die remotely disabled a large number of its branded inverters sold in the U.S. This action has left many homeowners with inoperable solar systems. This affected inverters displayed a message indicating they were not authorized for use in the U.S., Pakistan, or the U.K. The message also provided contact information. So this story has bigger implications, and that goes back to the old IoT, Internet of Things. And basically what happened was either one company was copying the other's technology or they were releasing it within a country they weren't supposed to. And these were things that have live, active connections to the internet. And so the company's like, well, screw you. I know the consumer isn't at fault, but we're going to screw them over anyway. And they send out a kill code. So this is something, people are at home using their inverters for their solar systems, just doing their thing. And all of a sudden this company says, wait a minute, we don't like what you're doing, we're shutting it off. So they send software out, they brick the hardware, and now they basically have a useless piece of technology simply because a piece of code was sent. And I mean, that could have been inadvertent. If it happened accidentally, that could have been bad enough. This was done maliciously, or at least with intent. I mean, what happens if a company goes out of business that supposedly supports the, the back end of your, the software behind your technology? I don't know. There's 1,000 things that could happen here. But if this isn't an example of why you should own what you own and not be beholden to updates and firmware upgrades and all the rest. But this story started on Reddit. I saw it a couple of weeks ago and I kind of followed it down in a rabbit hole. Crazy. Yes, Bonnie Blue said I was considering a Solarc. I don't know enough about this situation to tell you whether to buy something or not buy something. But what I do know enough of is how this played out. And I wanted you guys to hear about it. So if you guys see any more about this, send it my way and I will cover it in an upcoming episode. I won't be here next week. I will be in Tennessee. I just realized that sitting here that we fly out Tuesday evening. We fly into Atlanta. We're gone for 7 days and then we'll be back. So the next 2 weeks will be pre-recorded shows, but I'll be recording a couple episodes while I'm down in Tennessee for you as well. I got tons of interviews in the bank that we'll be able to deal with. But either way, this is a scary situation that I wasn't super keen on, and I'm sure most of you aren't either. Another reason why I've been getting back into physical media is so you can own what you own, because I realized we were watching some of these new releases, like, well, for instance, Terrifier the other night. We paid $25 for that to purchase it digitally, which is great. We now own it, but what do we own? A bunch of ones and zeros that if Apple TV shuts down or decides that they're no longer going to have the license to it, whether I bought it or didn't buy it, I don't own something electronic like that. So anyway, there's something to be said about owning physical pieces of equipment that can't necessarily or don't necessarily need to be updated. That's for sure. And if you haven't seen this one, guys, just go and watch this trailer video. I can't play it because I'm sure I'll get a copyright strike if I do, but it's called Skynet on Wheels. And this story comes from Zero Hedge again. And this is one of Tesla's competitors in robotics is the Chinese company Unitree, which is already selling its humanoid G1 robot. So if you haven't seen this yet, check this out. We'll show it in a small screen here for a second. And if that doesn't look like something straight out of Terminator, I don't know what does, but it's a 4-wheeled robot that can go downhill at 50 degrees, can climb all kinds of crazy things. It can stand up, there it is right there, and use its legs like arms. Kind of cool, scary as shit, but I had to show this a little bit. This is, right up there with the Boston Dynamics, MIT spinoff company that makes robotic animal type things. And here's yet another one, but this one comes out of China. So I thought you might enjoy that one, at least maybe just a little bit, or something worth taking a look at. But all right, so let's dive into the weekly workshop next. And this is basically a recap on what I have been up to over the last week, and actually 2 weeks in this instance. And the main reason I do this is two things: for motivation for me and for you, and accountability, so that I can share with you what I'm doing, so that I'm actually doing shit, not just sitting at home doing absolutely nothing. So first point of this last 2 weeks, we had a pretty massive, well, I say massive, we had a pretty big snowstorm as far as the prairies go. We tend to get one in November, and it tends to be the start of the storm season, but we ended up getting somewhere between 10 and 11 inches of snow. But the best part about it was that it got cold enough that we didn't get that wet, packy, heavy snow. So that made a huge, it was kind of nice. You could drive around town and everybody was smiling. Everybody was having fun blowing their snow because nobody was breaking their back, having heart attacks, trying to get rid of the snow. It was just a light snow that machinery cleared up pretty quick. Of course, because I'm a big fan of, 2 is 1. So I basically tied together a review for the DeWalt snowblower, my 1 year later review out of that. So if you haven't caught that, check that out. And a week ago, just over a week ago, I did a video on long-term fuel storage. It was a semi-hit. It did okay. I think it's 600 or 700 views at this point. Not nearly as good as some of the other ones, but better than others. I did some striping. Striping. Yeah, no, did some striping on the walls at the daycare. So Becky came up with a great idea that saved us a lot of work, money, and frustration. And we decided, instead of painting all the walls upstairs at the daycare, we were just going to put an 18-inch stripe of paint all the way around the hallway. So it's basically a square all the way around. So you've got classrooms on the outside, classrooms on the inside, and you have, 4 hallways that all converge in a square. And so what we wanted color-coded hallways. And what we decided on was 2 18-inch stripes that meet in the middle. So when parents come in, they can either go the mint green way or the strawberry milkshake way. So you can tell parents, hey, take the green hallway to the blue classroom, take the red hallway to the purple classroom. That was the idea we were going for. And I learned quite a bit about proper taping, about making jigs, about taking your time and painting over tape. And I really increased my skill set on that. So do your best to look at a job like that as a way to improve a skill set. That's what I did, and I had a lot of fun. My son-in-law, Curtis, he got all the classrooms floored and the carpet pieced in. So each classroom has some extra vinyl flooring in it where we took up 1/3 of the carpet. And then where the old walls were, of course, there was a 4.5-inch gap of where the carpet was missing. So he pieced that in using his expertise. He also got all the bathrooms floored, which is great. We installed a new industrial stove, a new dishwasher. All the wall hangings have shown up for the upstairs. So when I get back from Tennessee, Curtis and I will be hanging all of the bulletin boards, whiteboards, coat racks, everything. And that will legitimately just leave decorations, decor, and some furniture assembly for upstairs. So we're kicking ass and taking names. I originally thought maybe March for the renovations to be done, and now it's going to be done by the end of December. So at least 2 months ahead of schedule, maybe more. We're flying out next Tuesday to Atlanta. Had a great live stream with John Willis. If you haven't watched it yet, it was the second round of Shooting the Shit. I love that name. And that'll be we're going to be doing that the last Monday of every month. We were both surprised that Monday came around as fast as it did. 4 years ago today, I hit 500 subscribers. So we're not very far off from 25,000. We're just about to hit 22.5, which is the halfway point between 20,000 and 25,000. So crazy how far you can come. I remember how excited I was to hit 500 subscribers and how excited I am to be quickly approaching 25,000 subscribers as well. And then one more thing, it's a tease again, because I can't share with you yet, but we've had some pretty there's been quite the dichotomy around here. We've been really excited about we're working on purchasing an acreage. I've said that, and beyond that, that's as far as I can go with it yet. But we've had some pretty stressful times and some pretty exciting times all at once. Things look much more positive than they did even a week ago, so I'm really excited about that. As soon as I can share with you for sure what's going to happen one way or the other, I will. But until then, just know pleasant thoughts with everybody out there for me, and it's coming. So yeah, I'll share with you as quick as I can when I can, and yeah, there you go. And what do we got next for you?
They're here to cleanse the planet of the virus of the human race.
Let's take a look at what's left while we empty the cache.
So if you haven't heard this before, this is a term I heard thrown around quite a bit this year. I had heard it a couple of years back, but it was definitely used in the media a lot this year. And it is the term Brown Friday. And emptying the cache is probably the newest name to a segment we have on the show. And that is simply where I bring in an idea or a concept or a story that I wanted to share about, but it just didn't fit in anywhere else. And this is Brown Friday. Yeah, no, sorry. Today is Black Friday, but it's also known as Brown Friday. And the reason for that is, let's read this story from New York Post. How to avoid the worst of Brown Friday, the busiest day of the year for plumbers. Yep, plumbers. And if you're wondering why, well, everybody probably knows, because I'm going to guess that Thanksgiving in the U.S. is the largest collective family gathering events nationwide. And so people scrape fat and clippings and all kinds of shit down the drain. They tend to clog up. Well, toilets are used more, and plumbing fixtures just tend to break or can't handle the excess flow rate going through them. So plumbers make a shit ton, pardon the pun, that was intentional, of money. While throngs of shoppers descend on stores everywhere in pursuit of the best sales this Black Friday, hordes of plumbers will be dispatched across the nation to deal with the ugly aftermath of those gut-busting Thanksgiving feasts, clogged disposals, pipes, and toilets. Now, I'm going to say, I think garbage disposals are a bigger thing in the U.S. than Canada. I maybe sold a half dozen of them over the years when I worked at Home Hardware. I don't know anybody around here who has one, but either way, man, could you imagine? You don't want to be calling a plumber on Thanksgiving because you're going to be paying through the nose if you can even get away with it, right? But with everybody having guests and family in town, the plumbing system is under more demand. It can become overloaded. It's no wonder the day after Thanksgiving is twice as busy as any other day of the year, even more so than Hanukkah and Christmas. Pippin says Thanksgiving or Super Bowl, worst time for plumbing problems. Yep, I agree. So either way, I guess what I'm saying is think ahead. If you're having family over, if you live on a septic, and you haven't had your septic pumped out in a long time, maybe do that. Have some extra drain cleaner on hand. Know how to snake your lines. And just don't be stupid. Don't pour bacon grease down a drain. Don't pour way too many vegetable clippings down there. Whatever. Just don't do the stupid things. Be a little bit more cautious when these big events happen. Simple as that. All right. Next, we have...
It's the apocalypse. End of days. The judgment day. The end of the world, my friend.
Let's dig into the community mailbag.
All right, we are back to the community mailbag. This is where we take a look at all the interactions, well, not all, of course, but some of the things that end up coming my way. So this one came from a boostergram over on the, man, I'm having a blank tonight, but it is over on fountain.fm. If you guys use Fountain at all, you get some really cool boostergrams over there. This one came from the Bitcoin Viking. He sent me 1,000 Satoshis. It came on November 18th, and this was in regards to the last This Week in Prepping we did. And he said, hey, I totally agree. Go down to your local hardware store, go to the back counter with a box of donuts or a bucket of coffee from Tim Hortons, yak with them about the weather or the hockey game for a while, and then get talking about who's a reliable contractor. They'll know who to use and the best way to contact him. I used to say that a lot. If you wanted to get into property management, go to your local real estate office and take them some Timbit, some donuts, some cookies, whatever it happens to be, and shoot the shit. But if you want to know the most reliable, and also the people who aren't reliable, the people who will show up and do a day's work, take your deposit, and never come back, go down to the hardware store, pick their brain, because that's the place to go to find out who is the most reliable. All right, next, this comes from YouTube. This is Non-Legit Nation 2. He said, hey, I just bought a DeWalt 1/4-inch impact without looking at battery prices. I was shocked to say the least. I'm going to go with the Siener batteries, though, coming in at around $35 for a 6 amp hour battery. Siener also makes a universal battery using a single row of 21700 batteries. And all you do is buy the flat battery, which locks into an adapter for 10 different major tool brands. And then you can use it with that tool. There's an adapter for each brand, not one adapter that works with all 10 brands, LOL. I'm going with the replacement DeWalt battery, though, not the universal. And the reason I brought this up is if you haven't seen this system, it's kind of ingenious. The reviews are mixed on it, and I'm pretty sure the company's sending me out some of this. It was kind of cool to see this in my comments about the same day that I heard. I'm rather excited to try it out, but it's one of those concepts that's basically one battery and then adapters to fit everything else. Now, we'll see. I'm looking forward to trying it out. I'm going to keep an open mind. I can see problems with it. I can also say, hey, it'd be really cool to just keep using the adapters on existing DeWalt batteries, but I like this system. So if you haven't heard of it, look it up. And it's Siener, but that is Ceener. Charlie, Echo, November, Romeo, in case you're wondering. Next, nothing to no one in particular. And this is from a couple of weeks ago when I did the Surviving a Cold Weather Power Outage video. This said denatured alcohol, burners, sand, copper TEG fan, CO2 detector, fire extinguisher. Boom, you have a sand battery. Interesting. Low cost fuel, easy to do. I mean, okay, I guess so. I'm I haven't tried it. I might look into it. But the one I wanted to say was after this, he said, their comment was, get that neck knife on your belt buckle horizontally, more discreet, and it won't take your life if you fall on it. All right, well, a couple of things. First off, I don't wear my neck knife outside of my clothing, except when I'm filming a video, for two reasons. Number one, it gets people talking and asking about it. And number two, it's easy to access. I don't want to have to be reaching up under my shirt while I'm filming videos. So normally it fits underneath my shirt. So if you're going to slip and fall, the shirt keeps it up against your chest and it's not going to jab you. Now, of course, it has a plastic, it ain't going to kill you, but it might hurt your neck a little bit if you fall. I got to ask Patrick Rorman at some point if he's ever fallen while wearing that neck knife. And I know the answer is yes. So, and I know tons of you guys out there who wear neck knives as well. Anybody else have that concern? Because I know I don't. And also I need to show you, recently I've switched over to using a multi-tool around my neck, and I'll show you my setup one of these weeks. I'm pretty excited about it. It's turned out way better than I expected. All right. This one comes from Gibbles Pass Crack. I don't know, 1418. And this is another winter tip. Don't throw out your snow shovel at the end of the winter season. Winter will come again, so keep that shovel. You don't need to go to the hardware store to buy a shovel after the event has started. Great idea. I love that. I hope you guys out there aren't throwing away your snow shovel every year. Maybe that's an American thing where they live way down where it gets really cold, really hot, and you only have a snow shovel. You need it like twice a year or something. I don't know. But yeah, don't throw out your snow shovel. Man, I have some snow shovels that are old. But yeah, keep them. Or if yours is wearing out, wait till the end of the season and buy it in the spring on a 90% discount and then save it for next year. So yeah, so that's what I ended up getting this week from the mailbag. It was kind of a quiet week. Things have slowed down a little bit. I was having exponential growth, and that's kind of the cool thing about YouTube is it goes like this, but as long as you're working your way up, you're going to get it. This time of the year toward the holidays, you always seem to see a decline in viewership. Once January comes around, it picks up again. But yeah, that's what I have for you guys this week. It was a great episode. I love coming on and sharing with you. The show's here. We're going to be doing more episodes coming forward. Like I said, pinned in the YouTube comments tonight is the YouTube channel link to the Workshop Radio channel. Once we hit episode 500, this show will be moving strictly to that channel. So you can already watch it over there now. All of the back episodes are linked there. The design was to clean up this main channel and focus. And I decided after about 3 years of toying with the idea, I'm going to pull the Band-Aid off and finally move the live stream show to its own channel. Now, upcoming this week, like I said, I'm going to be traveling a bunch over the next little while. I've got a couple of 1 week trips. We got a trip to Tennessee for John Willis's The SOE Christmas Party. We leave next Tuesday. Then we're back. We'll be back on the 11th, going away Christmas shopping for a couple of nights. And then I believe it's January 4th. We are going south of the border, south of your border. We're going down to Mexico for Christmas this year, post-Christmas, of course, but the whole family's going. It's going to be fun. So we're going to be gone for 7 days. So there'll be no show that week other than a pre-record as well. So the holidays are coming up really quick, guys, and I'm excited to get here with them. But I also got a lot of shit I want to get done, and we've got some big happenings at the Casse de Cook, our house here. And I'll keep you in the loop as things go along. I hope you guys have a glorious week this week. I know I'm going to continue to get lots of shit done and relax a little bit too if you need to, folks. So, as always, what do we say? Stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.